Okay, we're back. Welcome to Mom Fuel and Mindset Podcast. I'm Jess.
I'm
This is
Kristen.
Chrissy, and we are your hosts. We have cool news that we have reached 50 downloads, and that is all thanks to you guys. We appreciate our listeners. This is just something that's fun, and we really, really enjoy this. This is like truly becoming one of my favorite things that I do. And so I appreciate Chrissy co-hosting with me, and I appreciate we appreciate the downloads and the listeners. And if you take time to listen to this means so much to us.
Yes, yes, indeed.
We are on episode 5, which is super exciting. And today we are going to have a real honest conversation about the difference between being strong and having to. We're going to title this one Strong Enough to Survive, Tired of Having to. Because as moms, as busy working women, whether you're a stay-at-home mom with kids, whether you're a career woman who's juggling both, no matter what a single parent who is, in the midst of figuring out co-parenting or don't have help at all. Each one of us has a unique situation that can fall into this white-knuckled grip of where we just have to be strong. We get through it. We're moms, we're women, we are strong, we do it all. But that also comes at a price, right? Like something has to give at some point, and that also tends to be us. We tend to put ourselves on the back burner. As long as everybody else is okay, we get the crumbs, we get the last, we always get put on the back burner.
I think we often, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I have a thought.
Yeah.
I think we carry it like a badge of honor. I think,
yes.
For the longest time, someone would ask me, "How are you, Chrissy?" And I'd always say, "I'm busy. I wore it like a badge of honor." And I think it's time to change the narrative. Like, we feel like if we're not constantly doing for others, we're failing in some aspect, or we're not doing enough, or we feel the guilt associated with that, right? So I think letting that go, that's what this episode is all about, is finding a little bit of a better balance.
Yeah, because what toll does that take? Right? We wonder why we are, short fused. We wonder why we're exhausted. We wonder why, little things get to us. I know that there are times when something's, I go from 0 to Ursula. That's what I tell my kids. Why do I have to go from 0 to Ursula before you listen? I go from 0 to Ursula over nothing, right? Like the wind blew the wrong way and it was just, and why? That's not normal. We should not let that be the norm. We should not allow ourselves to get to a point where we, are easily overstimulated. Little things get to us. We're easily overreactive. We struggle to make choices. We struggle with relationships. We struggle with, our work-life balance. We struggle with our mental health. And that all comes from living in this, like, I have to be strong. That's who I am. That's what I do. That's who we are. We're moms. It's like this unwritten contract that when you bring that baby home, that all of a sudden you no longer matter. As long as everything else is taken care of, you're super mom. You do it all, right? Like like you said, it's a badge of honor. It's who we are. It's what we signed up for. And we don't get another option. There's no other choice other than to be strong for ourselves, for our families all the time. But that takes a toll. That's taxing, super taxing. And I think that we see, in I'd love for the listeners to just think about their lives. Where are you now? What does it look like? Are there areas where you find that being strong is taking a toll?
Yeah, I love that, Jess. And I think, you add to the layer of motherhood is for those of us at work, right? You add 40 hours, 20 hours, whatever it looks like for you. You're balancing work and motherhood, and if you have a significant other at home, and all the different roles that we have in our lives, and we lose sight of who we are, what we want. And as you said, you go 0 to Ursula, Jess. I love that description because it's true. And when we're constantly pouring into others, and we're not giving ourselves anything back other than maybe late bedtimes, early rises, right? Like, we don't get the time that we need. We might have maybe 10 10 minutes quiet time when we're taking a shower and when no one else needs us. But again, I think it's time to change that narrative. I think it's time that we really kind of look around to see what is it that I definitely need to do? What is it that I can let go of? What can I ask for help with? Really just trying to peel back those layers and figure out what matters most and what can I let go of? Because I think we get lost in the shuffle. And every day is a repeat of the day before. It's like we're on autopilot and we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And we're often left on the back burner, as you said, Jess. Like we're not giving ourselves what we need. And
Yeah.
when we do, there's guilt associated with that.
Yeah, it's interesting how we go from, I love that we're shifting into a, women empowerment, like kind of movement where, you see a lot of emphasis on physical, moving your body. All bodies are beautiful, but like the importance of like moving your body and supporting one another, being girls, like I like this movement of, where burnout is no longer a badge of honor. I do like that. But I also think that it's important to understand that while we have to take this and really channel it into our lives and find value in us every day. Like take where you are, only focus on the next 24 hours, truly find value in you. You are a valuable human being. Mother aside, worker aside, relationship aside, like put it all aside. Like there is value in who you are. Now, people tend to be like, well, it doesn't matter if you're just a mom. I'm just a mom. It doesn't matter if you are the CEO of, IBM. Like wherever you are in life, you are valuable. We tend to downplay because, like you said, we get stuck on autopilot. We just do the same things. My life is not valuable. And I think that we get complacent in that daily rhythm, daily routine of who we are that tends to break us down. Like motherhood is difficult. Juggling motherhood as a single parent is difficult. Juggling motherhood while being a full-time employee is difficult. All of these things. And if we're like the only constant in life, Chrissy has said this before, the only constant in life is change. Like if we're not actively pursuing positive change in our life, like a change towards something that we want, better mental health, better physical health, better connection with our families, better connection with our spouse, deeper understanding in our jobs. Like if we're not actively pursuing that, then we're going the opposite way. Then we're getting run down. Then we're getting burnt out. We either have forward progress or backward progress. We're never staying the same. We're either moving forward or backwards because the only constant is change.
Well, yes, and I think like for the longest time I was living in that, and I hate to use this word because I feel like it's overused, but survival mode. Like I was literally in that frame of mind where I just did everything I could do to get through the day. Like, and then I would go to bed exhausted, I would wake up exhausted, and I would do it over and over and over again. And if someone came to me and said, Chrissy, you need to pause, you need to, ask for help, I'd be like, what planet
What
are
do
you
you mean?
from? Yeah, like what Kool-Aid are you drinking? I'm fine. I'm strong. I'm fine. I'm paying the bills. All is well, right? And so when I was in the grind, I would not have heard that message. And so I think it's really understanding where you are in your journey and what
Yeah.
you're able to really consider.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny you say drink the Kool-Aid because sometimes I think that I do sound like I'm some like woo-woo, like I'm like, no, this stuff is serious. Like if I could just get you to, people look at me when I say like journal your thoughts. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I can't. A lot of people can't. They don't know how, like, right? So, but it does sound, and I'm like, do I sound like wacko? But I promise this stuff is like real.
Oh, do you see my AI?
That's hysterical. They gave me a thumbs down. That's right. But you're right. It's hard to understand until when you do try and invest. Like if that's the thing, because it's not when you are living, and I know we don't like using this word, but when you are living in survival mode, nothing else feels like you could ever get out of that. Right? Like, doesn't matter what you do, you just feel like this is my life. And you're so submerged in it. I've spoke before, like I felt like I was underwater. Like I was trying to breathe underwater, and it was the hardest thing ever. But you don't feel like you could, it doesn't matter what you do, but I wasn't doing anything to try and get out of that because I was at capacity with just trying to live. right? Looking back, there are things that I wish I could have done. I wish I went to bed earlier. I wish I cut out the alcohol sooner. I wish all of these things that if I could tell somebody like this does make a difference. Getting fresh air does make a difference. And I get that it's very difficult to do in the moment, but when you come out the other side. So Jimmy ended up in the hospital the other night because he has a kidney stone and he woke up like a fish out of water. And so I was up all night that night. I think I got like 2 hours of sleep that night. The next night, I guess you could say, I had to get up very early because I had to bring my dad to the airport, right? So that's like 2 nights, not good sleep. One night was literally like no sleep. The next one was not good sleep. The awareness that I had to what that did effective, like I feel like I have been just a zombie. Like I'm the brain fog, the irritability, but the awareness to it because now I understand that these things have a very much huge impact on our actions, on our mental capacity. Like I said to Jimmy, and you don't just catch up on sleep, right? Like I just need to catch up on sleep. What does that look like? My dog's in my face at 7 a.m., like on a Saturday morning, Sunday morning. It's like I'm not sleeping until 9. I'm not catching up on sleep. But the awareness to, hey, like this really does. Our actions, sleep, water, food, like all of those things do have a serious impact on our mental health. And I noticed that this week because I feel like I'm running very differently. I've been super emotional. I cried 3 times yesterday on my Bible study for no reason except I was telling a story about myself. Like it was the awareness that you have when you start to see these changes, that when you revert back to that survival mode living, right? Where like years ago, I wasn't sleeping like I do now. I wasn't making it a priority to go to bed like I do now. I wasn't, but for this week, I feel like I've been living in the past where my sleeping habits were terrible. And I realized the effect that it's had on me. It's eye-opening when you start to make little changes on how it affects your body when you revert backwards, when you have a week that's off. And awareness, I've said it before, creates space for change. When you realize it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is how important sleep is in my life. I need to make sure that I'm getting it. And that was really cool. And it was kind of eye-opening to me that like, wow, it's like, my body was literally telling me like, hey, you're a better person. You're literally a better person when you get some sleep.
Yeah, maybe a little more tolerant, a little less
Yeah.
emotional, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I think we lose sight of that when we're in the grind, when we're in it. We don't know what we don't know. But once you are able to separate yourself from it and build that awareness, yeah, you can see the difference between the two.
Yeah. So that rolls into like, okay, so what can we do right? We are all strong. We are all very strong human beings. We all have been through situations that have made us strong. We have all been through situations, right? But we don't have to be strong all the time. We don't have to, we don't have to live in this constant state of because of the things that, ultimately what toll does it take? So how do we support ourselves in that journey of strength? Like, how can we support ourselves? We talked about boundaries, setting boundaries and being okay with them. I know that boundaries, okay. So I read something the other day that said, it was somebody on not TikTok, because I don't really go on TikTok, but somebody on an Instagram reel that said, I am over this boundary. We've gone too far with the boundary talk. And yes, you do need to make yourself uncomfortable for the people you love. And yes, you need to go out of your way if somebody's in need. And yes, it's okay that you have to basically went on this whole laundry list. And it like got me thinking because there is a lot of talk about boundaries now, right? Like I feel like boundaries weren't really a thing. And then all of a sudden it was, but I disagree with her. Like I think that yes, if you love somebody and somebody is in need of something, I think that's a very different conversation than, I'm setting boundaries because boundaries truly are about our peace and our, protecting our, you can be kind and say no. You can be loving and protect your peace. Healthy boundaries, like actually, I feel like make us better people. They make us able to show up for the people we love in a better way. If somebody is not okay with your boundary, it's probably because it directly affects them. I think boundaries are not walls. I think they're guidelines that that we set for ourselves so that we can show up in a place of love and pour from a full cup versus losing ourselves, being at the bottom of the, pouring from the sludge that we talked about on the bottom of the barrel. They don't mean that we're cold or selfish or unkind. I think that they mean that we're honest and self-aware and respectful of both ourselves, our families, our immediate family, because there's a big difference between, say, the boundaries for us and our kids, and then outside influences, families and friends and things like that. So as much as I was intrigued by this video that this woman had put together, I don't agree with it. I think that if you have the capacity to show up for somebody when they need, whatever that looks like is a different conversation. But I think it's super important that we are able to set boundaries that help us be better, help our mental health, help our physical health. And whatever those look like, it really just creates a standard in which we live by. And we all need a standard in which we live by so that we can function properly.
Well, and I think it helps too with like resentment, right? Because if we constantly
Yes.
say yes and we constantly do things that we don't want to do because we feel loyal or we feel whatever, it's my adult kid and I should do this, whatever it is, right? Like the resentment builds.
Yes.
And so boundaries help with that piece as well. And as you said, it's a guide, right? We don't have to keep them strong all the time. Rules are meant to be broken, boundaries can be broken too. But I think if we have a structure that we live by, it helps us with our relationships, with the relationships with ourselves, and really just learning how to say no. No is a complete sentence. I just said that to someone, a grandmother that I know who is always watching her grandchildren and was feeling overwhelmed with, the level of commitment that she's finding herself. And not that she doesn't love her grandchildren, she adores them and loves spending time with them. And she actually felt guilty saying it. And, she's like, how do I say no? They're my grandchildren, right? So that's hard and that's real. And it's okay to have boundaries and say no. It really is. And it's hard.
It is hard, but like you said, it's necessary, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you don't want to build, like the example you gave, you don't want the resentment to build, right? Where it's not enjoyable for her to have, like she said, I love my grandkids. I don't ever want to, but like they're people too, right? Like grandparents are people too, and they need their own time and space and to be able to show up as the kind of grandparents they want to be. And so sometimes it's difficult. Right. Is there this sense of, requirement that how do they say no? And what is the pushback if they say no by the kids? Is there this, feeling of they don't want to negatively impact the relationship with their adult kids because they are not able to say no? And this becomes, right, where like open, honest communication, is like being able to say, I'm sorry, I can't tonight, or I can't take the kids, or I can't change my plans. That's okay to say. Right? I like that you said, like, just asking for help. Like, we have the ability to ask for help. Chrissy and I met before we started recording, and I said, like, being okay with asking for help, not having to be strong and able to ask for help. And Chrissy said, asking for help is being strong. And I was like, oh, punch in the gut. You are absolutely correct. Right? Like, asking for help is being strong. I've said this over, I'll say it 100 times. The greatest thing I ever did was ask for help, because doing it on my own was getting me nowhere. And it's not that I needed, right? There's a difference between needing help with, say, getting the kids to help around the house, vacuum the floors, put their laundry away, clean a bathroom, right? There's that kind of help, which comes with its own set of struggles, right? If we are somebody who has an issue with control. As moms, as businesswomen, as mothers, like we just tend to be in control of it all, right? We manage the chaos, the schedules. We make sure the family runs efficiently. So we already have this sense of control that we tend to also get on autopilot, and we want it done a certain way. I just had somebody say to me the other day that I always think that my way is the best way. And that's what I struggle with. Is that, I want people to do it my way because I think it's the best way and it's the most efficient way. And the question is, does it have to be? What's wrong with, can we be okay with our kids putting their laundry away, no matter what it looks like? Can we be okay with our husbands, loading the dishwasher, no matter what it looks like? Can we be okay with the way that the family cleans the house if we're taking a nap, no matter what it looks like, right? Like we have this, we need it to look this certain way, therefore we have this control. Even if the kids put their laundry away, we're going to go behind them and fix it because we want it to be a certain way. That adds our own stress, our own struggles with control and feeling like it needs to be done a certain way. That is a piece of this strength that we hold on to that also negatively impacts the reason that we're also tired, mentally exhausted, because we're constantly trying to hold ourselves to specific, rigid schedules, expectations, requirements that we don't even allow our families to help. Even if we ask for it, we don't let them help us to a certain capacity because it's not to our liking.
Yeah, and I think we hold ourselves to that rigid expectation, but we're holding them to that rigid expectation
Mm,
too. So when we do accept our help, as you said, and they don't load the dishwasher the correct way, and we have to go around behind them and fix it, like we're holding them to this unrealistic expectation as well. And so it's just really something to consider, like what's the worst that would happen if I let the dishwasher stay the way that it is, even though it's not the way that I
yes.
intended it? What's the worst that could
Yes.
happen? Right? So maybe the dishes won't all fit right. Well, so what? What's the
Right.
worst that could happen? And so I find myself now, because it's funny that you said the dishwasher. We didn't talk about this, but that is one thing that I have a thing with. Has to be loaded to sit like the right way. And of course, my way is the right way. And so when someone else loads it, it becomes a thing, and I end up having to rearrange the whole thing. And so that's something I'm going to have to practice is like, what's the worst that's going to happen if I just let it be the way that it is?
I'm really learning. I'm somebody who I've been very open about. I get easily overstimulated very quickly. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have similar tendencies to Deegan with set schedule changes and things like that. I struggle with. I thrive with lists and schedules and to-dos, and we live and die by our Google Calendar. And if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. And it's a thing. Jimmy always jokes with me if I have a meeting with Chrissy, he's like, that wasn't on the calendar. How do I know? And so I'm really, really trying to use this philosophy of what's the worst that could happen and live with a little more grace and a lot more ease and presence when it comes to our families. Like our kids will only be this young again.
Mhm.
Wherever they are today is the youngest they'll be. And so yesterday, Jimmy was like, hey, let's go snowmobiling. And I was like, but I had plans. Like I have plans. And he was like, all right. But my instant reaction wanted to be no. Like we have to clean the house. We have to do these things. I have to go to the grocery store. I have all these things I got to do. But then in the next, like practicing the pause, right? Like there's always power in the pause of being like, what's the worst that could happen if it waits? The dishes, the dust and dog hair that's in the corner that needs to be vacuumed is going to be there when I get back. The dishes are going to be there. Like nobody's going to starve if I go to the grocery store today versus yesterday. Like what is the worst that could happen if we release the grip on what we have, these rigid requirements and expectations that we set for ourselves and our families. If we release it a little bit and say, hey, let's live in the moment. Let's be okay. We don't have to be like strong. Like I feel like we categorize success and how well of a we're doing as a mom, but based off of how clean our house is, how successful in our job we are, how well clean the rooms are, how like what are we basing how successful we are as moms and parents and just in life in general, how well we're doing? Like if you ask them, how am I doing? Well, and the laundry list of stuff comes. And it's like, how connected to yourself are you? Do you love yourself? Do you value yourself? Because I would consider that somebody being successful. Do you feel connected to your kids? That to me would be considered successful. I don't care if your house is clean. I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care, any of those things. A healthy marriage. Do you have healthy communication in your marriage? That is successful to me. So can
Mhm.
we change what we base, strength and success off of? And really like I'd like to think that we could change the narrative on what success looks like in motherhood. It's not Pinterest perfect birthdays. It's not, these wild parties. It's not picture perfect lunch. It's connection, value. Are you teaching your kids how to value yourself? Because they're watching you, and that's truly what it comes down to.
Amen.
All right, we have three things. How are we doing on time? I didn't set my timer today.
I think we're getting there.
Okay. All right. So we have three things that we're going to leave you with. So, do you want to leave the first one or you want me to? First one was so find one thing that you can remove or delegate from your plate?
Yeah, one thing that you can remove. So, there's probably a million and one things that we're all doing every day, and really figuring out like what is one thing that either doesn't need to get done or it does need to get done, but it doesn't need to get done by me,
Right.
right? So it could be something simple. It could be cleaning the bathroom. I don't know what you do on a daily basis, but one thing that you could just try to let go of.
Yeah. I saw something somebody the other day said, I removed all of the apps on my phone that don't provide me with, some kind of positive soul filling, so they were like they deleted Snapchat and they deleted, gosh, she had like a list. And she said, I spent too much time on them. And when I was done, like I don't feel better. I don't feel mentally any healthier. I don't feel, any more positive or anything. They're not moving my life forward in any way. So she deleted apps. And I was like, gosh, how many people do spend a lot of time, right? Facebook, Instagram, which we've talked about in the past, can negatively impact your life. Right? How much time are we spending on them? Can we put limits on that so that you can then use that time to connect with yourself, journal, get off a screen. These are things that we are capable of doing, that we don't have to ask for help for, right? But then there's also things that you can ask for help for. What is something that you can ask for help for? That would
Mm.
be number two. Where can you ask for help? Whether it be within your family, asking the kids to help. We talked about what's the worst that can happen if the kids put their laundry away and it looks like Tornado Central. What's the worst that could happen if they vacuum the floors and they miss a little dust? Hey, we're teaching them responsibility and we're teaching ourselves to release the grip that we have on what strength is, surviving is, what perfect looks like. Our standard of what it should look like doesn't have to be their standard of what it looks like, right? Like, especially as kids, especially as men, right? Like we all have different thoughts and views and priorities. And just because we don't share that doesn't mean it's wrong. Number two would be ask for help because asking for help is being strong, right? And then if it's outside of your family, I'm a huge advocate for asking for, you need to just chat, right? You need some time and space and you need to talk about a situation. Reach out to a friend, reach out to us. Like you have something you need to share or get off your chest. Like it's okay to reach, it is strong to reach out and ask for help. Like we want to normalize that. And then we're going to leave you with a journal prompt. When you find yourself in a situation where you are feeling, you know, any kind of feelings, anxious, nervous, anger, resentment, any of these things, what am I really upset about right now? And what's the worst that could happen? If you ask for help, if you delegate, if you, allow yourself to be vulnerable, if you allow yourself to take, remove something from your plate, what is the worst that's going to happen? So that we can start to see those change because the awareness matters.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. All right. Well, we appreciate you for being here. We hope that you get something out of this episode. We really hope that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our slew of podcast availability to download. We are now on like 5 platforms.
Very cool.
So exciting. We appreciate you being here and we hope that you have a good week, have a good day,